Aamir and Layla Khan arrived in paradise as the perfect newlyweds, but by sunrise, only one of them was left alive, and the hotel's CCTV would soon reveal the horrifying truth hidden behind their honeymoon smiles. Aamir Khan and Layla Saeed were the couple everyone envied in Dubai's social circles. Their story seemed like something out of a movie. Aamir, a 34-year-old property investor, had built a name for himself in luxury real estate. He owned villas, drove supercars, and appeared in glossy magazines showcasing the life of success. Layla, 5 years younger, was a travel influencer with over 500,000 followers. Her pictures of exotic beaches, designer clothes, and candlelit dinners had made her an online sensation. When their paths crossed at a charity event, it was instant attraction, two ambitious, beautiful people drawn together by glamour and status. Their wedding became the talk of Dubai. Held at a private beach resort, the event was filled with gold decorations, fireworks, and guests flown in from 3 continents. Every moment was captured and shared online. The diamond-studded gown, the drone shots of the ocean, the couple's first dance surrounded by sparklers. To outsiders, it looked like perfection. But behind the glowing smiles, there were whispers. Some of Aamir's business rivals hinted that his finances were not as solid as they seemed. Others noticed how Layla appeared quieter than before, her captions on social media slowly losing their sparkle. Still, the couple announced their honeymoon in Hawaii, calling it the trip of a lifetime. Fans flooded their posts with congratulations. Layla's followers waited eagerly to see more tropical photos, while Aamir teased a surprise planned for his new wife. On the surface, everything looked blissful. Two newlyweds ready to start a glamorous new chapter together. Yet beneath the excitement, something darker was already forming. Neither of them knew that this trip, meant to celebrate their love, would instead become the story that froze their names in headlines forever. When Aamir and Layla arrived in Hawaii, the air was thick with salt and sunlight. The taxi pulled up to the Blue Tide Resort, a luxury beachfront hotel perched on a quiet stretch of coastline, where turquoise waves touched white sand. The hotel staff greeted them warmly as they stepped out, dressed in coordinated travel outfits and designer sunglasses. To everyone watching, they looked like the perfect honeymooners, young, beautiful, and deeply in love. Layla filmed the entrance for her vlog, capturing the view of palm trees swaying against a golden sky. Her followers would later see this as her final upload. At the reception desk, they checked into room 407, a top-floor suite with a panoramic ocean view. The hotel clerk noticed Aamir's charm and confidence, how he joked easily while signing the forms. Layla stood beside him, smiling faintly, but her eyes told another story. She seemed distracted, glancing at her phone repeatedly as if expecting a message. The clerk later remembered her trembling hands when she passed her passport across the counter. It was small enough to overlook at the time, but unforgettable afterward. When the elevator doors closed behind them, Aamir placed his arm around her shoulder. The CCTV camera above caught that moment. His gentle smile, her forced one. They disappeared down the hallway, unaware that these images would later become key evidence. Housekeeping later noted the room had a faint tension even from the start. Layla unpacking carefully, Aamir pacing near the balcony. To outsiders, it was an ordinary check-in, but something subtle had already shifted between them. Behind the walls of the lavish suite, the cracks in their perfect love story began to spread, setting in motion a tragedy no one at the Blue Tide Resort could have predicted. That evening, the Hawaiian sky turned shades of coral and violet as the sun dipped below the horizon. Layla stood by the infinity pool of the Blue Tide Resort, her reflection rippling in the water. She wore a white dress, her hair gently moving in the breeze. Aamir sat a few feet away, scrolling through his phone, uninterested in the view. Layla took one last photo of herself, framed perfectly against the glowing sunset. Moments later, she posted it on Instagram with a caption that puzzled her followers. Sometimes happiness feels heavy. It was unusual for her. Her posts were always cheerful, filled with hearts and palm tree emojis. This time, it sounded like a quiet cry for help. The picture quickly went viral. Fans commented, asking if she was okay or if something had happened. Layla never replied. Hours passed, and her account went silent. Inside the suite, the mood darkened. Staff on the night shift recalled hearing muffled sounds from room 407. Faint thuds, something like furniture moving. A neighbor from the next room reported hearing footsteps pacing for nearly an hour after midnight. Later that night, the couple had dinner at the hotel's beachside restaurant. Witnesses described an eerie silence between them. Layla barely touched her food. Aamir seemed tense, constantly checking his watch. Their waiter noticed Layla's eyes were red, as if she had been crying. When they left, she walked slightly behind him, her shoulders hunched, her face pale under the dim lights. It was the last time anyone saw her alive. The next morning, the pool was calm again. The sunset photo continued to gather likes, and no one knew that behind that perfect picture, a nightmare had already begun. The morning sun rose quietly over the resort, casting long golden rays across the ocean. Guests filled the lobby with chatter, and suitcases rolled across the marble floor. Among them was Aamir Khan, dressed neatly in a linen shirt and sunglasses, checking out of the Blue Tide Resort. He looked calm, almost cheerful. The receptionist smiled politely as he handed over his key card. When asked about his wife, Aamir replied casually that Layla had gone shopping early and would be returning later. His tone was relaxed, convincing enough that no one questioned it. He paid the remaining bill, thanked the staff, and walked out through the glass doors with a single large suitcase trailing behind him. A few hours later, when housekeeping entered room 407, the air felt strangely heavy. The curtains were drawn, and the room smelled faintly of salt water and perfume. Everything was perfectly arranged, too perfect, almost staged. On the bed lay Layla's passport, her phone, and her purse, all untouched. Her clothes were still neatly folded in the wardrobe, and her shoes were lined by the door. The bathroom light was still on, and a half-empty glass of water sat on the counter beside a tube of lipstick. The housekeeper hesitated, sensing something wasn't right. She called her supervisor, who immediately notified the hotel manager. Within an hour, the police were contacted. Officers arrived and sealed the room, taking photos and collecting evidence. Guests whispered in the hallways as word spread that the new bride had vanished. The romantic honeymoon had turned into a mystery overnight. While Aamir's flight departed quietly that afternoon, detectives in Hawaii began piecing together the first clues of what would soon become one of the most chilling cases the island had ever seen. The disappearance of Layla Khan quickly drew public attention. Within hours of the hotel's report, Hawaiian police launched a full investigation. Detectives arrived at the Blue Tide Resort and began by reviewing CCTV footage, interviewing staff, and retracing the couple's final steps. What they found was puzzling. The cameras showed Layla entering the hotel with Aamir the day they arrived and appearing again at dinner on the night of her last Instagram post. But after that, she vanished from every frame. There was no footage of her leaving the hotel, using the elevator, or walking through any exits. It was as if she had disappeared into thin air. When questioned, Aamir claimed they had argued the night before she went missing. He said Layla became emotional and left the room around midnight to get some air. According to him, he fell asleep and woke up to find her gone. His voice remained steady, his story well-rehearsed. Yet, investigators immediately noticed inconsistencies. He couldn't describe what she was wearing when she supposedly left. He also didn't contact the hotel staff or the police when she failed to return. Meanwhile, the CCTV footage revealed another troubling detail. At 6:47 a.m., Aamir was seen leaving the hotel alone, dragging a large black suitcase. It appeared heavier than usual, and he struggled to lift it into the trunk of his rental car. That same suitcase was never seen again. When police later examined his luggage at the airport, it was a different, smaller bag. The footage raised serious questions. What had happened inside room 407 during those missing hours? Detectives realized they were no longer investigating a disappearance, but something far darker. The search for Layla was about to turn into a hunt for the truth. Detectives at the Blue Tide Resort dug deeper into the hotel surveillance system, hoping to find the missing pieces of the night Layla vanished. But when they examined the recordings, they discovered something alarming. Several hours of footage were gone. Between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., every camera in the corridor of the fourth floor had gone dark. The hotel's IT department confirmed the footage had been manually deleted, not lost due to a technical glitch. Someone had accessed the system using a staff login and wiped specific files, leaving the rest untouched. It was a deliberate act meant to hide something. Investigators traced the access log to the manager's computer, located in a small office near the reception area. At first, suspicion fell on the staff, but the timeline revealed a different story. The login occurred just after 3:15 a.m., minutes after the night manager had stepped away for his routine security round. The office door had no signs of forced entry, suggesting the person used a copied keycard. The next clue came from the resort's Wi-Fi records. During those same hours, a guest device connected to the office network using the name Aamir K. 407. It was a crucial breakthrough. This meant Aamir had entered the manager's office and tampered with the security system before dawn. He had tried to erase the evidence that could show what happened to Layla that night. But what he didn't know was that the resort's system automatically created a backup copy every 48 hours on a separate server. That copy hadn't yet been checked. As investigators prepared to retrieve it, they realized they were on the verge of uncovering what truly occurred inside the walls of room 407. The cover-up was beginning to unravel. As detectives searched every corner of the Blue Tide Resort, they focused on the restricted areas where guests rarely went. Maintenance rooms, storage closets, and staff corridors were checked one by one. Behind the laundry section, a small metal door caught an officer's attention. It was locked with an old padlock that seemed recently replaced. The manager claimed no one had used that room in months, yet the dust around the handle was disturbed. When police broke it open, the air inside was damp and heavy with the smell of cleaning chemicals. In one corner, they found a piece of torn fabric, red in color, with delicate embroidery, the same pattern Layla was seen wearing in her last Instagram photo. Beside it lay a silk scarf, stained and knotted tightly, and a few broken pieces of jewelry. Forensic teams rushed to the scene, carefully collecting samples. Later, tests confirmed traces of blood on the scarf matched Layla's DNA. There were also faint fingerprints, Aamir's, on the inside of the metal door. This discovery transformed the missing persons case into a confirmed homicide investigation. In room 407, more subtle evidence emerged. Under the carpet, near the balcony, technicians found small drops of blood and a cracked floor tile, as if something heavy had been dragged. The cleaning crew had unknowingly scrubbed away most of it, but ultraviolet light revealed what had been hidden. The narrative was becoming clear. Layla had been attacked inside the room, and then moved through the staff corridor to the maintenance area. Detectives now suspected Aamir used the service elevator to transport her body, avoiding the main lobby. The trail of evidence was finally forming, and it pointed straight to him. 3 days after Layla's disappearance, the ocean revealed what Aamir had tried so hard to conceal. A local fisherman, setting out before dawn, spotted a dark, heavy object floating near the reef several miles from the Blue Tide Resort. As he drew closer, he realized it was a suitcase, bloated, partially submerged, and tangled in seaweed. He alerted the Coast Guard, and within hours, investigators arrived at the scene. When the suitcase was lifted onto the dock, everyone fell silent. The outer surface was scratched, the zipper strained from the pressure inside. When it was unzipped, the smell of seawater and decay spread through the air. Inside were personal items, pieces of women's clothing, a camera memory card, and a fragment of a white dress. At the bottom lay human remains. The remains were quickly sent for forensic testing, and within 24 hours, the results confirmed everyone's fears. It was Layla Khan. The autopsy revealed she had suffered blunt force trauma to the head before drowning. Her wrists showed bruising consistent with restraint, and her time of death matched the missing CCTV hours, between 1:30 and 2:15 a.m. The medical report shattered any remaining doubt. Investigators compared the suitcase to hotel footage. Though Aamir had tried to erase the key recordings, one surviving camera from the parking lot caught him struggling with an identical black suitcase before dawn. The timeline fit perfectly. The ocean currents later confirmed that an object dumped from that area of the coast could have drifted exactly where it was found. What had begun as a romantic honeymoon had turned into a carefully planned murder, and the sea had returned the truth Aamir hoped would never surface. The case was no longer about disappearance. It was about justice. As investigators pieced together the evidence, a disturbing picture of motive and premeditation began to emerge. While searching through Aamir's belongings and digital records, detectives uncovered several financial documents that changed the entire course of the case. Just 2 weeks before the wedding, Aamir had quietly taken out a life insurance policy worth nearly 5 million dirhams in Layla's name, listing himself as the sole beneficiary. He had even signed the papers on the same day he purchased the honeymoon package to Hawaii. The timing was too precise to be coincidence. The deeper they looked, the darker it became. Aamir's businesses in Dubai were collapsing under hidden debts. Several investors had pulled out of his real estate ventures, and lawsuits were quietly piling up. The lavish wedding everyone had admired was funded by borrowed money and desperation. To the outside world, Aamir looked like a wealthy entrepreneur. In reality, he was on the verge of bankruptcy. Layla, on the other hand, had recently discovered the truth. Her friend back in Dubai revealed that Layla had confided her fears weeks before the trip. She had found messages on Aamir's phone, proof of affairs with multiple women and secret financial dealings using her name. Layla had planned to confront him after their honeymoon and then file for divorce. But Aamir likely learned of her intentions. The honeymoon, investigators concluded, wasn't a celebration of love, it was a calculated opportunity. He had planned everything: the destination, the timing, even the false charm he displayed at the hotel. It was meant to look like a tragic disappearance. Instead, his greed and deception were unraveling faster than he could control, and every piece of evidence was leading straight to his downfall. Aamir Khan never made it back to Dubai. Just hours before his scheduled flight, police arrived at Honolulu International Airport and quietly detained him at the departure gate. Witnesses described him as composed, even smiling faintly as officers approached. He didn't resist, merely adjusted his sunglasses and asked for a lawyer. But by then, the evidence against him had already become overwhelming. Detectives had recovered the resort's hidden backup CCTV system, stored on a secondary server that Aamir hadn't known existed. What they found on it ended any doubt about what happened to Layla. The footage showed Aamir leaving room 407 in the middle of the night, dragging a large black suitcase down the hallway. Minutes later, he entered the staff corridor and disappeared into the maintenance area where Layla's belongings were later found. 20 minutes later, he returned alone, sweating and visibly shaken. This footage, combined with the digital records of him accessing the manager's computer, created a timeline so precise that every lie he told unraveled instantly. News of the arrest spread worldwide. Dubai's media covered the story relentlessly, the perfect couple's darkest secret. Layla's final Instagram post became a symbol of hidden suffering behind perfect images. At the trial, Aamir's charm was gone. The jury watched the CCTV footage in complete silence. Within hours, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Layla's remains were brought home to Dubai, where hundreds attended her funeral. Friends and followers mourned the woman whose life ended too soon, all for greed disguised as love. The case became a haunting reminder that even paradise can hide a crime scene, and that sometimes the truth waits patiently for a camera to tell its story.